Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yellow and porous and absorbent is he.
SpongeBob
If
SquarePants.
nautical nonsense be something you wish,
SpongeBob SquarePants.
jump up and down and flop like a fish. The level of you just like,
SpongeBob SquarePants. Oh god.
SquarePants, SpongeBob SquarePants. I wish I could do a little whistle thing on my nose, but I can't.
Hello and welcome to the 48th podcast. I don't think we can be done for copyright for that.
No, it's so terrible.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, we're small fry. It's fine.
Small fry idiots.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe in the future, maybe they'll come for us then, going back through our old back catalogue.
Yeah,
but,
I like to appreciate. I think if anything, we've generated a buzz for it, and it might have re-enlightened the flame of what children had for. Well, not even children, us. What we had, young adults, for SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, if you haven't gathered from that, we are a board gaming and tabletop podcast. I am Steve, and today I am joined just by...
It's just Darryl.
Just Darryl. Hello, Just Darryl. How are you today?
I'm like that hair stuff for men. Just men. Is it just men or just for men?
Just for men.
Just for.
Yeah,
I'm just for men, but I'm not just for men.
Okay. I thought you were going to explain why you're like just for men.
It's more like well, I don't think women like me, to be honest with you, but probably that's why. I think there's a lot of negativity that comes back to me from feedback. So I don't want to say hate mail, but there's been a lot.
Oh God Almighty!
I think there's one. Well, like everyone has fans, and I feel like I have anti-fans.
Okay, so are you saying your fans are mostly men? Or exclusively men if it's just for men?
I would say that there's murky waters here a little bit.
It is.
I would say no. I'm not exclusively branding myself for just for men, but I think that the people that tolerate me are men.
I feel like you sent us down a very dodgy path there.
I mean, I would say ask 90% of the women that I know, they would definitely say that I'm not. I'm not for them.
Oh, what a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, do you know what? It's just not for me. It's a no from me.
Okay, before we kick into things, I will just talk a little bit about what's been going on with the website recently. First of all, I'll tell you about what we've uploaded recently. We actually uploaded our Ride the Rails review. It's a game that all of us enjoyed. What we really think about it, though, you'll have to watch the video to find out. It's quite a fun little video, actually. I quite enjoyed doing it. Yeah, I had a bit of fun with that one. But, yeah. Apart from that, we are actually scaling back things at Everybody Dice a little bit. Times are tough, and, finances aren't quite as stable as they used to be. So if you've been paying attention to the website at all, you'll notice it hasn't really been taken care of, and it's because we kind of made the decision, I think back in August, that we'll probably shut the website down once the basically the period runs out that we've actually paid for. This is generally because it's quite hard to maintain. We don't necessarily have the time to be able to maintain it, and also it doesn't really bring in very much traffic, really. We tend to find that most things come from either YouTube itself or from social medias and stuff like that. So we've actually been trying to build things up on Facebook a little bit, which has actually been going quite well, actually.
Yeah.
We've gained a lot more of a following off of Facebook recently. So it just seems like the website just isn't really cutting it. We're also changing our email addresses as well. The current email addresses we're using from Everybody Dice are quite expensive to maintain as well. So we're simply moving to Gmail. So from now on, any inquiries or if you want to send us a message or anything like that, it will now be everybodydiceshow@gmail.com. That's all set up and ready to go as well. That's all the boring stuff out the way. How about we talk about what we've been playing?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Let's do the playing thing. The thing
So-
where we play stuff.
or not in the case of, we're still in lockdown at the moment, so it's still quite difficult to be able to get together to actually play games. And with the kind of lack of time, I haven't really even had chance to play digital games, which I was doing before. We did, however, play Mr. Lister's Quiz Shootout on last week's podcast. If you didn't see that, then please go back and check that out. But we never really talked about... Yeah, we never really talked about how we actually felt about it. Being someone that grew up on quiz-based games, so things like Trivial Pursuit, and my family still owns games like Bezer Whizzer and things like that. All games where the person that wins is the person who knows the most about stuff. Generally, I don't find them very fun, but I quite like this one, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I feel like Darryl got a real rough end of the draw.
I was going to say that. Although, I would say they were tailored way more towards Ian.
Yes.
The questions anyway, I would still say that the concept I can understand was fun enough, and I did enjoy myself because it was still something to play. Do you know what I mean? It was still something you could easily play it, and I know you were talking about it afterwards. You said there was a lot more to it. It was just the luck of the draw.
Well,
so
we went a bit further into it, and we found an interesting question in that name the Guardian's top 10 favourite bears or something like that, fictional bears. And we did. It just happened that we didn't pick out those questions quite so often, but you can certainly see with that question, it was I felt like we had a bit more fun playing around with that one. I really like the idea of the shootout question at the end, which is supposed to be quite a hard one to get, and whichever team gets closest to it, basically wins the round. I like the idea that the general structure of the quiz as it is a bit family fortunesy, so you all get a chance to answer a question. You all get a chance to give a correct answer because there's multiple correct answers for each one. I like the idea that there are harder to get answers that you can risk going for, but knowing that I think it's a really clever idea to have a scoreboard where each of you fire 3 questions each at one another. 3 answers per question. So everyone gets a chance at it. The golden answers will automatically get you through to the final round, and then the other team have to use the rest of their turns basically to find another golden answer. That was quite neat. I think one of the biggest problems I find with quiz games is that one-shot nature of them, which this eliminates. Like someone asks a question and it's the first person to answer it, or a question is asked and you have to answer it, and by having one correct answer to a question, you can quite easily find 1 or 2 people may feel a bit alienated if they know that they don't quite know as much as the next person. And I think that's something that Mr. Lister's Quiz Shootout actually handles really well.
Yeah, it was an interesting concept because that's what I thought. Like it was going to be one person answer, and if they don't get it, don't get it. But I like the fact it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
It works a whole lot better. It really does. Like I can't stand games like Trivial Pursuit and things like that because you know who's going to win before the game even starts a lot of the time. It kind of saps the fun out of it a bit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still like sitting around with a group of friends. We had it in a pub we went to. All the pub every table in the pub had a selection of Trivial Pursuit cards actually on the table.
That's cool.
And so you could just go through and you just ask the table, oh, what's the answer to this and stuff like that. And when it's in a real relaxed kind of atmosphere, it actually is kind of nice to go through those questions and stuff. But when things get ultra competitive in those kind of games, I find you get 1 or 2 people feel a little bit alienated. But yeah, I like the fact that it comes with a fake moustache as well. That was not a prop that I provided. Wait, sorry. That our esteemed host provided. That was actually included in the box, and whoever plays the role of the quizmaster in the game gets to use a nice little mustache.
What do you mean
very
plays?
Cool. Yeah.
What do you mean play? Sorry, you left the room, Steve.
I did leave the room.
Yeah, you hired a professional quiz host, didn't you?
Yeah, but I go back and edit these things, so I saw everything that happened.
Oh, of course, of course. You're the all-seeing eye. I forget about this.
Yeah. So
that makes sense.
That's
that
like
makes sense.
not.
Yeah. Sorry,
that's not an issue. Then.
No, I didn't realise. I thought you were trying to, I don't know, insinuate that he wasn't a real person.
Basically, trying to reaffirm the validity of the mustache. Basically,
yeah. If anyone could grow a mustache, it's you. Like legit, you could just shave your beard into a. I know you wouldn't want to. But
it's true.
But you are literally the beardiest man. Well, you're the second beardiest person I know.
Yeah, there's quite a few beardy people out there, but I've actually kept it a lot shorter. Like maybe in the last year.
Yeah, it's
like I used to grow it out a hell of a lot longer, but. Anyway, that's not the point right now. That was Mr. Lister's quiz shootout. I'm totally up for playing this again. I think I've got a feeling I think I would enjoy it more with even more people.
Yeah,
because I feel like the discussion between teams as to which answer they're going to give, like, although Ian was very good at being able to give the answers that are
golden boys.
Are golden answers. If he was put with teammates that were going to be more, no, don't say that, play it safe and things like that, I think I'd have a lot more fun watching the reactions to that because 100% Ian will
go mental.
He will drive home his answer. Or if he does submit and say, fine, we'll just go with your answer, and then it turns out he didn't, he had a golden answer.
We both know Ian would never submit. You know, he would just keep going and keep going and keep going.
It's absolutely true. But we all know that. I think it just would be more interesting to see. I certainly wouldn't go the family fortunes route and say, okay, everyone on each team will take turns at giving the answer. I want to see people argue in this game as to what's the best answer to give. I'd like to give it a go again. Hopefully, when we're out of this whole COVID situation, you know. Okay, another thing that I have really briefly been playing because, as our patrons would know, we are going to be reviewing the Clockwork expansion for Root. So I've been spending a little time with Root again. Not necessarily the Clockwork expansion just yet, just playing, just to get myself back into grips with them. I want to actually play a little bit with the other two expansions, the River Folk and the Underworld expansion, simply because I want to see how the Clockwork expansion actually works in conjunction with everything else. So the Clockwork expansion actually allows you to set up AI players for the Marquis, the Airy, the Woodland Alliance, and the Vagabond. So if you've played Root before, these roles are... The roles in the game are actually kind of unbalanced. They're certainly asymmetrical, but the game actually tells you what factions you really should be playing if you want to try and keep the game as balanced as possible and not have one faction necessarily outweigh the other. So it means that sometimes certain roles aren't available to you if you don't have enough players. The Clockwork expansion actually will allow you to replace a lot of the factions that the game suggests you keep in the game, depending on your player count. But by having this thing that allows you to insert an AI player into a role of another, I'm quite interested to see how it's going to affect the roles in the expansions, because again, the expansions, it says you should really swap out this faction if you want to play as this faction. It actually says you can try and play with, you can try, by all means, try and play with the other factions, just be warned that the game will be a little bit unbalanced. So yeah, I want to see really, because I haven't had a chance to play with the Riverfolk or Underworld expansion yet. So I kind of want to get to grips with how they play before I start using the Clockwork expansion to replace things. So I'm doing quite a bit of research into this review, basically.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I get it right. It's a lot of content to play through, because Root's... Root, okay, we've played Root before.
Yeah.
It is our number one game, if you go by our list on our website. But still, I've never played as the Marquis or the Vagabond in the whole time that I've had it, because simply we usually don't have 4 people to play it with, so the Vagabond's usually out anyway. And every time I've played, I've always played as the Woodland Alliance. And the one time when I decided I don't really want to play as the Woodland Alliance, I played as the Aerie instead. And it's just one of those things where really the game plays better if you have a load of people and they all have one faction that they largely play as, and they learn it and they become more competitive with it. Because there's a lot of different tricks you can play with all of the different factions. So it kind of makes sense that everyone plays as the same thing over and over and over and really gets to learn each of them. It's kind of like having a deck in a collectible card game, you know?
Yeah.
But essentially, yeah, I'm still playing my way through it. I still really love Root. I will say it's not quite so much fun when you're playing it on your own, which is what I'm doing at the moment. It's why, again, it's taking so long to play it. Simply because I'm having to play it in bits, because I find after a while without people, and this is a problem with board gaming in general, without having other people to be able to discuss things with and things like that, it does definitely take something away from board gaming.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very... I know there are solo games we've played, but social aspect of stuff like that. I mean, like, especially with Root, we kept, kind of commenting between me and you when we were playing, when I went to play it with you anyway. We were saying about, like, the design and stuff, weren't we? And we were sort of figuring out little mini secrets as we went. And it was kind of nice when you were like, I've just realised that it's a Marquis cat kind of thing. And you were just like, oh, yeah. It was just subtle little things like that. You were kind of like, oh, yeah. And then it was... I don't know, it was just fun. It was just fun, I think, to talk about it rather than sort of play it with yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's some games where you can play on your own, but there's still the aspect you kind of want to chat to someone about it and go, oh, I played this game, it was really good. It was, had some really good mechanics. It had some really good characters. The artwork was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's sort of, you're missing out a little bit, aren't you, sometimes?
I still 100% subscribe to the idea that despite the fact that sometimes you will play a board game almost in silence, especially if you're playing a game like Magic Maze where you actually can't talk to one another or stuff like that. Yeah. I still find board gaming is a really, really sociable hobby, I find. Like the socialization and stuff in board games is still a very big part of it. I don't do a lot of socialization outside of board gaming, so it's kind of like there's a lot of things that I do get out of board gaming that I'm not getting at the moment. It's interesting because we'll reveal what all of the topics were for this podcast that the patrons had the chance to vote on. But there is one topic that didn't get chosen that I thought would be particularly interesting to discuss. But we'll save that for another day. I might talk about it briefly when I do go over the topics a bit later when we go to talk about the big discussion. However, I feel like we, again, will try and fill some time here by playing, maybe not playing, but we're certainly going to try something now. Like we did Mr. Lister's quiz shootout. I came across a nice little book. So we don't do a lot of RPG stuff on the podcast. Ian usually covers his RPG stories and stuff like that. But here's something for you guys today. It is the RPG character backstory guide. So it's a book by James D'Amato. He's basically written this book where you take a character and you put them through various exercises just to help you maybe get into your character a little bit more. The idea being that it kind of helps you understand how to get into the mindset of your character to kind of help you bring a story to life when you play an RPG, because I will admit, it's really difficult to kind of jump into a character, if that makes sense. You always feel like you're playing a character as a little bit of yourself. So what we're going to do today is Darryl has very kindly brought along one of his characters that he has played with in an RPG before.
Oh, yes.
And I am going to put him through a number of exercises.
I'm going to mentally prepare. Hold on, please. Let me just warm them up.
Okay, sure.
Let me just warm them up. It's not bad. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff. So, which character have you brought along for us today?
So I have decided to bring he's currently not deceased, so that's useful. He is Lord Byron. Wait, hold on. He's got a really long name. Let me just find out where I wrote it down. His name is Lord Byron Harrington West.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's a 1930s, 40s, sorry.
Okay.
English gentleman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm guessing I'm not going to give him any backstory, am I? Because this is all part of the.
You can do. You can let us know a little bit about him, and what essentially this book will do is it will give you touches of it will give you kind of like extra little flourishes, I suppose, to your character that you already have.
Okay.
Maybe give them stuff perhaps to bring up in conversation sometime in a future RPG or something like that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he's quite a well-rounded character, so... well, he's not. He's a bit... Right, okay. Long story short, we were doing an Orient Express Cthulhu campaign, and he's currently still in Paris, I think. He is, Lord Byron Harrington West. Basically, he's an English gentleman that's made a lot of money from selling artwork. As it progresses through the story so far, only one other person, a Frenchman, has found out that this may not be actually true.
Right.
He technically is a conman who is basically been sort of buying forgeries and selling forgeries, but somehow has made enough money that he's actually been able to live the lifestyle of the character he's created. So it was a really hard one for me because I actually made two characters within one character. Which I really liked, because I really liked the fact that at any given moment... So the reveal came in quite a weird way, actually, because we were talking to some person that wouldn't give me information, and I threatened him. Then my character wouldn't threaten someone, but he suddenly changed tone from, oh, my name is Lord Byron West, or whatever, to suddenly this Cockney English geezer. And everyone was like, And then everyone was just like, you could hear them going, what's going on? What's going on? And I was just like, yes, the reveal is now. But in game, only one person knows. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Very cool.
Sure.
Big carrot.
Okay, so how about we build a little backstory to him?
Please.
I will say that a lot of this book is probably more geared at fantasy characters and things like that.
Fair enough.
Like your Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
We can make this work, though. We can, I'm sure.
If not, I don't mind him being teleported back to the Dark Ages, a la Army of Darkness.
That's cool. I think we jump right into this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to generate an idiom for your character. Something that they're probably going to say. So the way the book puts it, a great way to make a world feel lived in is to find a unique way for your character to speak. Idioms are a perfect new way to communicate without totally reinventing language. Roll a d6 for details and pick appropriate connecting words to create common sense phrases that exist in a world unlike our own. Then work the phrases into your character's everyday conversation. Ooh. So we're going to give your character a little catchphrase, basically.
Yay,
so what we have to do is you are allowed to choose the words, but that's not very fun.
No,
I'm going to get you to
choice.
Randomly generate this. So when you're randomly generating it, I want to know whether you would like your idiom to be about a profession or a monster. What would you prefer?
Profession, because of his professional demeanour.
Okay, so if I could get you to roll a d6, please, and reveal the number.
Okay. 2.
Okay. I'm not going to reveal it just yet. I'm gonna send a completed sentence to you at the end of this to read out. So I'll send it over our chat at the end. Okay, so we have that. What will I get you to roll on next? Sure. Roll. Let's give him. Actually, let's find out this part first. Can you roll a d6 again, please?
1.
Okay. Let me just do this. Okay. Then if you could roll a d6 one more time, please.
2.
Oh,
Oh no. Oh god, no.
This has come out a little strange, but hey, let's
Are we rolling with it?
let's roll with it. Okay, I'm gonna send you this. Actually, no. Let's change this. Hang on,
Oh god.
because the thing is you're given a little bit of flexibility in order to make it, in order to actually make it a sentence. So, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah.
Blah blah.
Okay. So, this is about the most sense I can make out of your die rolls to give your character an idiom. I am going to send this over to you now.
Okay.
What will your character now be saying?
You can't find a king without swinging a sword.
It sort of works.
I think that would apply to
I suppose.
both the business and the work. Sorry, the business and the monster, even.
So, it had this whole thing of... I don't know, it could have worked with another one as well. One of the other options was to go with, you can't find a raging king without swinging a sword.
Yeah, that works.
So you could always work that in if you prefer that.
I'm going to keep this one because it's what Destiny has given me.
Yeah, raging... Well, no, so the way this is actually structured is it gives you a number of words that you can put before the word or sentence that you've rolled. Okay. So, in other words, you rolled can't find for the first part of it.
Okay.
And your options to put before it was you, magic, gold, or blood. You is the only one that really works with
blood
that.
Can't
you
find.
Can't find. And then before king, so king is what you rolled, your options to put before it was a raging, pleaser, which doesn't work, honour, which doesn't work, on a, should I say, a foolish, so it could again be, you can't find a foolish king without swinging a sword, or a, which is what we went for. And then, so when I got you to roll on the other ones, there were 4 things that you rolled with roll of 2.
Right.
It was either going to be over a barrel, swinging a sword, getting you paid, or the deepest mine. The deepest mine, 100%. There is.
I don't know.
You can't find a raging king in the deepest mine. That doesn't really work. I tried to find the one which worked best.
Yeah.
to give you something to say.
That's good.
So are you at least happy with that
Do
idiom?
you know what? I think that's definitely something he would say as well, which is really weird because it just would make no sense to anyone else. Just
That's
you
perfect.
can't find a king without swinging a sword. That's what my mother always used to say, and then just like walk off. And I'd be like, what?
Yeah, that's perfect.
I think
So
it's fantastic.
we'll move on to another exercise now.
Please.
I've picked out 4 that I think we'll go through. So this one, it will actually be more down to you.
Right.
So you'll like all of these exercises. Some of them are random generation. Some of them you'll get to answer as you go. So this exercise is called Damn Millennials. So,
Right.
as often happens, older generations of adventurers look down on and resent those just starting out. Choose details about your setting and use them to answer the prompts to define the divide between old and young adventurers. Okay, so the first thing it says is before we get started, we have to establish the truth of the world that you're in.
Okay.
So either there are more or fewer adventurers now than before, or a wise, a cruel, or a controversial leader sits on the throne, or it is a time of relative peace, upheaval, or brutal conflict. So do you want to choose one of those? You've got 3 options, and within those options there's a couple of little tweaks you can make to it. So
I'm gonna go with, because I've been teleported back to Calamar or whatever it was called. What was that castle called? Candor.
I wasn't a part of that RPG.
No. Sorry, in Evil Dead, it was Candor, wasn't it? Candor.
Oh God, I can't remember.
Where they're like, we found the ancient artifacts under Candor or something like that.
I really can't remember, if I'm perfectly honest with you.
Oh,
and I love that film as well.
Yeah. Either way, I'm gonna go for It's a Time of War. I've teleported literally into that scene where he lands.
Okay,
there.
so if you would like to make a note of the fact that it is a time of brutal conflict.
Yes.
I suppose is the way that you want to put it. Okay, so the next thing is technology. A new piece of technology fundamentally changed the way your world works before you entered the adventuring profession. It could be related to heroism or have nothing to do with it. So to determine what it is, you need to choose 2 of these things. So your first option is it is magical in nature. Your second option is it created a new industry. The third option, it made people safer. Fourth, it exposed the world to new dangers. Fifth, it is something people use every day. And the last one is it caused widespread controversy. So you need to pick 2 of those.
Ooh. I would say. Wait, sorry. What was the first couple ones?
The first couple were it is magical in nature, and the second one is it created a new industry.
Both of those 2.
Both of those 2. Magical in nature and created a new industry.
Yes.
Okay. Now you get to be a bit more creative. So first off, what is it called? I would say just make a note down of what you've already written down just to help you kind of like remember what's what.
So I put magical and
it's magical in nature and it created a new industry.
And created a new industry. Okay. Oh, I am going to go for Noirium.
Noirium.
Yes.
Okay.
Noirium.
So next, in a sentence, what does it do?
Ooh.
Bearing in mind it's magical in nature and it created a new industry during a time of brutal conflict.
I would say it's a crystal that can take on various properties depending on what it was used in. So it's been used to power stuff.
Okay.
So it's can be highly volatile as well.
Right.
So hence why people are using it to create new weapons and it's come from no one knows where it truly came from. It's like
So is it safe to say that the industry that it created, did it create the use of explosive weapons?
yeah, I mean, I would say 100%. I think, in my opinion, people started out by learning how to use it in modes of transport. So it's basically like a steam-powered thing, but it's running off a crystal, so crystal power. But at the same time, it's like that capacity gel stuff in Demolition Man, where they're like, it's not explosive, and yet Wesley Snipes explodes it. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of.
I love a Demolition Man.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
amazing.
It's very,
yeah,
very.
I know what you mean.
It's very much changed the future, but it's actually quite combustible at the same time, just in the right way.
Okay, that's cool.
So
The next question under the technology part is, how do older generations opt out of the changes it brings?
So I reckon they've gone to live a more monk-like lifestyle. So they're not adapting to the new ways. They're going back to the old ways of like horse and cart, and basically they're like I don't want to say like woodsmen. Yeah, they're like woodsmen. They've just gone back to that, like using the woods, and they're not using any tech whatsoever. Spears, and it's very, very old school.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. That's technology out the way then. It continues though. This one could be fun. We're now looking at the social aspects of this new generation.
Okay.
So a new social trend is common mostly among younger generations. Choose two of these options from this list. It changes the way people approach sex. It involves controlled substances. It is related to music or dance. It is currently illegal. It has been relentlessly commercialized. It is made possible by magic. Or it has been condemned by most churches.
Oh, I'm going to go with it's been condemned by most churches, and it is also. Oh, what was the other one I liked the last time? Condemned by most churches.
Do
and
you want me to read through them?
It was like the last three, I think.
Okay, so it has been relentlessly commercialized.
That one. It was relentlessly commercialized, and it's also been
condemned by most churches. Okay, so you've made a note of that?
Commercialized and condemned by churches.
Okay.
This is a really weird world they
no,
live in.
No matter what choices you made, you also understand it to be mostly harmless. What is it called?
What, the thing I made?
This social trend.
Oh, the social trend.
The interesting thing here is at no point do you have to describe what the social trend is. So in other words, whatever you call this, you can technically take into your game. And just start referencing this stupid social trend that other people may not know what the hell it is.
Social trend. I'm sure. I'm looking around the room for like inspiration.
Yeah.
I need something that sounds really like rolls off the tongue.
So you can kind of just whilst you're thinking about that, the thing you can actually see that this book is doing is it's actually almost establishing your own character's lore, like things that may have affected them whilst growing up, rather than what, say, the game says is there.
Yeah.
So it gives your character a few little quirks and stuff like that, which is really, really cool.
I'm trying to.
So sorry, have you come up with a name?
I'm trying to think of the. Do you know what? I'm gonna do some blatant stealing here. I'm gonna go for. Actually no, because that sounds really weird. So there's a.
It's like what they did in South Park, where they did the cheesing.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, you know.
See, I was thinking about the thing in Blade Runner, but like in the actual book, where it's something like Mercerism or something like that, or I can't remember what it is. But it's like a trend thing. I'm going to go for... Martialism.
Martialism.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, did you enjoy it the first time you tried it? Again, bear in mind that this exercise isn't asking you to explain what it is.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's giving you the flexibility within your game to then describe it a bit more, I suppose, in your own way.
Someone wants to talk to you about it.
You've already got the bullet points as to what it is, so you know that it has been condemned by most churches and it has been relentlessly commercialised. But you can make up what it actually is along the way.
So it's kind of like, like a new sort of celebrity thing.
How are you spelling martialism out of interest?
Marshalism. Martialism.
Cool. Okay. Okay.
I would say no.
You didn't enjoy it the first time.
No, I would say I didn't enjoy it the first time.
The first time that you tried it. Okay. Now we're going to move on to fashion.
God.
So we've covered technology and social. We're moving into fashion. So fashion is always evolving. Even without seeing someone's face, it's easy to tell how old an adventurer is by looking at his, her, or their gear. To determine the current trend, pick one. It's either pragmatic and simple, flashy and detailed, sleek and cold, or elegant and warm.
First one.
Pragmatic and simple.
Yeah.
Choose an accessory. Belt, cape, scabbard, bracer, scarves, gloves, boots, or hats.
Oh, man. I can only pick one of those.
You can only pick one.
Oh, man, there's some good choices in there.
Yep.
Scabbard.
A scabbard. So it's a pragmatic and simple scabbard.
Yeah.
Think about the world's economy and choose one. It is a way for the poor to express themselves. It costs 2 months' savings, or the debt required to attain it is a drop in the bucket compared to what you already owe. For your pragmatic and simple scabbard. I think you should be making a note of this as well.
I am, yeah. I've put my fashion and my pragmatic and simple with scabbard.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, because I feel like, is debt as in money, or is it something else? I'll tell you what, I'm going to go for the one it costs 2 months, or...
It costs 2 months savings. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not something you necessarily just buy at the drop of a hat. You actually have to
earn it,
want it and save for it, basically. Yeah, that's basically what that's saying. Okay, so create a word for the style based on the descriptor you find most appropriate. So you've got four different ones here. Counterculture. Choose a harsh-sounding single-syllable word. If it doesn't seem right, add punk as a suffix. Bohemian. Create a delicate nonsense word and add art before it. Stark. Choose a violent word and add the suffix ist or house. And debutante. Create a word or phrase that is at least 3 syllables and add the suffix cocoa or ick.
Cocoa and ick.
So counterculture, bohemian, stark, or debutante to kick things off.
I think I'm going to go for stark.
Stark. So choose a violent word and add the suffix ist or house. So write the word down and add one of those two to the end.
I've gone for controlist.
Controlist. Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be your... So you have a pragmatic and simple scabbard that costs 2 months worth of savings, and it's called Controlist. Okay, a Controlist scabbard. Okay. That's your little piece of fashion.
I don't know what.
So the last part of this exercise is language. Oh, okay, so it is easy to tell who is old and who is young based on the way people speak. So first of all, you have to decide whether the younger generation either complicates language or simplifies language in your world.
Simplify, because they're always shortening stuff.
They are. Okay. So that's very much like our world now, I suppose. Okay, so there is a new influence on speech that comes from increased interaction with, and you're only allowed to choose one, elves, dwarfs, orcs, humans, creatures beyond our plane, creatures no taller than 3 feet, or a being who is powerful and charismatic. Basically, The Rock.
Wait, hold on. So, the dwarfs and then the dwarfs and then the things that are under 3 foot. Surely those two must be like in cahoots.
You would think so, but I don't know. Maybe dwarves is a bit more specific than
under our mountain.
Say, yeah.
Maybe. I would like to choose orcs.
Orcs, okay. So, first of all, you use this word as an expletive when things are dangerous. So this is an orcish word that simplifies language. So probably simplifies a word that you'd already say is an expletive that your character is likely to say when things are dangerous.
I've got to make it sound orcish.
Yeah.
Crumber.
Crumber. Okay.
With a K.
Okay.
Crumber.
Now, a word that you would use to call someone attractive.
It's gonna sound like the La Bumba or whatever. I'm just gonna be like Crumber, La Bumba, Ramba.
La Bumba.
Oh, he's obviously starting a fight. So attractive. Man, I'm trying to think of like something that'd be like really orcish.
Honestly, I'm really enjoying
it's good
this.
Fun. It's good fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like anything that sounds really dodgy in our language that we can kind of just sort of shorten and add like a couple of weird syllables to it. Overthinking this, I'll just put something stupid. It is attractive.
I really love the idea that you're actually going to take these things as well and use them in the RPG. That's quite pleasing.
I can't with this one, but if there was another one, I would create him into. I do want to throw him into like a weird system now with that, but it could work.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to say crumpet, but that's like an actual word. You know, just like
shorten it. Crump.
Yeah, crump. She's crump with a K. With a K.
You see, that's all you have to do. Yeah, crump.
Cool, look at that crump.
Okay. What a piece of crump.
I would like to take it back and meet my family.
So one more word that you have to come up with.
Okay.
This is a word that you call older heroes who are about to retire.
Retiring heroes, okay.
Yeah, so if you've got an older member in your party, I suppose it's something you'd wind them up with. That again sounds a bit orcish and simplifies language.
Foggin.
Foggin.
Yeah, he's
nice.
I went with old fogey, but I'm going with foggin.
Yeah.
That's a foggin over there.
That actually, that works really well. Really good. So now you can see you've now got an idiom for your character, and you've got a few nice little touches now.
Some interesting little concepts for Lord Byron Harrington West.
Yeah, that just gives you almost like a regional way of acting, I suppose. Like something that you've grown up with. You have something about the levels of technology. You've got a nice little thing to wear that perhaps is a bit fashionable. Your language, you've got a few nice little words you can use now that you've made up. What was the... Yeah, what was the other one? It was... there were 4 bits. Oh, social. A social trend that you can bring up from time to time that you've dabbled in, but you didn't really like. No. Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to our next exercise, which is called A Touch of Home. Oh, no. So, constantly on the road, most adventurers split their time between staying at inns and camping in dangerous places. Even for the most hardened nomads, an inn can feel sterile and cold without some homey touches. Answer the prompts to discover what your character does to make a strange room feel like home. So, during the months when the cold stings even indoors, inns tend to skimp on the sheets. What do you bring to keep yourself warm? Could be something very basic. Like a blanket.
Yeah. It'd be like a...
Could be a comfort thing. A teddy, perhaps.
Oh, God, no. I'm going to go with, like, it's a... some sort of animal skins rug, like a fur thing, but I can wrap around me. Like an
okay, cool.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I don't really like the idea of that. Yeah, it's just a blanket. It's like a really thick knitted blanket that's been made.
Okay. So, although there are hidden gems everywhere, most inns don't pride themselves on culinary delicacies. What do you always keep with you to liven up a bland meal?
I choose, yeah.
Yeah, a little paprika, maybe a little bottle of sriracha.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, I always keep with me a bottle of like my own homebrew spice sauce.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
What sort of flavours would you say you have in there? Is it a smoky, spicy sauce, or
I would say it's definitely like
perhaps more sweet?
No, it's definitely going to be like a hot sauce, but it's going to have an earthy texture to it. So it's because it's like handmade. I reckon I actually use like
dirt.
I want to say dirt, but like it's got to be something. Like maybe like it's one time I fell and found a peppery rock. Right.
A peppery what?
Yeah, the rock just happened to have like a peppery texture and taste to it. So I've been like shaving off bits of that, throwing it in there, and it's kind of marinated into it to make it this kind of like peppercorns. It's like rock peppercorns.
Nice. Okay. Next up, wood, thatch, pitch, and mud. The materials most inns are built from are warmer than a tent, but aren't exactly pretty. What colourful things cuts through the monotony of most inns?
That I bring or they have?
It just says, what colourful thing cuts through the monotony of most inns? So perhaps something you identify with in an inn.
Wenches.
That you see that just
Wenches.
Brings something else to it.
Wenches.
Sorry? Wenches.
Yeah, there's going to be one in every tavern, and they're going to be different of
one.
Some sort.
You manage to find one in every single inn that you go to.
They're always going to be there. Like it has to be. There has to be a wench, a serving wench, or just a general wench, right? And they usually got good stories. I'm not talking about like in any purely like base instinct kind of way. I'm talking about like Peggy Butcher style. Do you know what I mean? Has really good stories and is scary and like genuinely kicks people out. Like, get out of my pub! And like, it just doesn't need like, doesn't need any like orc security. She's just like, it's Peggy Mitchell, but like everywhere you go, there's a Peggy Mitchell that like owns no man, just all women owning these pubs.
And you can always identify.
Oh, you
them.
don't? Yeah, you just,
okay.
I'm gravitated to that voice. Last orders.
So next up. An evening of carousing often leads to singing and swapping stories. What tale or song do you bring to an evening of revelry to warm your homesick heart? A tale or song? The time you tried that thing that is both overly commercialised and frowned upon by the church.
It's a tale of that, and I didn't enjoy it.
So I suppose here you're making up either a song or adapting a song that you know in real life, or just making up a tale for your character,
Yeah,
I
I think it'd
suppose.
be a tale, but it'd be very exaggerated, like how it affected me in a way that's no one's really sure that's ever actually been the case. But like, yeah, when I tried martialism, I basically tripped. I tripped into a new zone where I imagined I was a Britishman, whatever that is, in Paris on a train. God, that'd be
Oh
amazing if
god.
this was all like his backstory. Turns out he's just been hallucinating the Orient Express the whole time.
But I mean, that's good though that this book is doing that. I suppose.
It might be the crystal. It might be the power crystal they found. It's like actually affecting our minds.
Well, this is the point. It kind of ties everything together in these
Yeah,
exercises we're doing
it's
a bit.
creating a really good character, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the point of this book. Okay, so next up you've got not every hero gambles his or her treasure, but almost all adventurers play games to pass the time. What is your favourite thing to play?
Liar's dice.
Liar's Dice. Good choice. For some adventurers, taking a bath is the ultimate luxury.
Oh, no.
When you're not scrubbing away the dirt of the road, how do you make the most of the experience? Oh, God.
Here it goes.
Oh, God.
Well, turns out Peggy herself. I think I would genuinely. Yeah, do you know what? I'm gonna go with the Witcher style of things here, where they send in a scrubbing person.
Oh, my God.
And actually, that happened in Red Dead Redemption as well. And he went to go.
I think
Whenever
it
you went for a
did,
bath,
yeah.
you could pay more for them to come in and scrub you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you know what? I'd go for that.
Okay.
No. I've changed my mind.
No?
I've changed my mind. I'm bathing in beer.
You're... Okay. So you'll smell like a drunk the whole time?
No. It doesn't work like that. It's really weird. We did it in Prague. You don't really smell of beer afterwards. It's more just the ingredients. But
Oh,
but
God.
it's like really good for your skin. It's like genuinely good. They basically just you honestly, if you ever get a chance to try it, it's side note. It's basically they pour all the ingredients like hops and stuff like that and barley into this big tub of water. Whilst obviously you have a tap on tap literally next to you that you can just keep filling up with beer, so you get about an hour in there. But it's actually like genuinely afterwards your skin feels incredible because it's like it does something to your skin. It's
Okay.
almost like a kind of detoxy type thing. We smell of beer because we were drinking beer, but at the same time you don't smell of beer. Your skin doesn't smell of beer; it just smells of kind of like hops and barley, I guess, and stuff like that. But yeah, to relax, I would bathe in beer.
Okay. Right then. So that is the end of that. So we've got one more exercise to do. But before we do that, I do want to explain that the 3 exercises that I've done with you there, they are all from humble beginning. So usually your character would be between levels 1 and 7 to do those exercises. Or these are the ones that they suggest you to do. So in other words, you're still kind of like grinding and... basically labouring to try and make a name for yourself, I suppose, during by these exercises. So these are all kind of things that you do in the early game. There is a second part, which we're not going to do any exercises from, which is for veteran heroes, so between level 8 and 14. But we are going to skip right ahead to mythical and legendary heroes between level 15 and 20. This is the last exercise we're doing. This one is called Monuments. One of your character's deeds has permanently shaped their world. Anyone who gazes upon it understands it as the work of an unfathomably powerful being. Start by choosing some facts about its nature and relationship with the world, then answer the prompts. So, first of all, I'm going to get you to choose 2 of these things that describe your monument. It can be seen from miles away. To this day, scholars still debate about aspects of it. It possesses properties that make it valuable to ordinary people. Some groups make pilgrimages to visit it as a holy site.
Yep.
It has been incorporated into a larger memorial. It fills some people with a sense of dread or fear.
Ooh.
It will stand for more than 1,000 years. It is a testament to your great power. Or it is a testament to your undaunted virtue.
Oh,
So you have to choose two
that's
of
quite
those.
strong.
So that sounds kind of weird, that because you can choose two, you can both choose it to be a testament to your great power and a testament to your undaunted virtue. Or
Yeah.
it is a testament to your undaunted virtue, but it also fills some people with a sense of dread or fear.
Yeah, see that's
Like,
so I'm gonna go with. I'm just gonna make this really weird. I'm gonna go. Some groups make pilgrimages to it,
okay,
and it fills some with fear.
okay, cool. So the first question I'm going to ask you about this monument, now that we know that it instills dread and fear into people, and people make pilgrimages to it, what does it look like? Is it simply your image, or are you doing something in this monument? Like, is it a statue, or is it just the representation of something that's about you? I mean, how do you see it?
I see it as it's a huge, absolutely huge monument of me jumping mid-air into a crystal.
Okay, right. So the next question I need to ask you is, do people live nearby, and is it some place that can be easily reached?
People live relatively nearby. They live downhill of it. It's like up a mountain as such, so it's a bit like the Temple of Zeus.
Sure, or the Jesus statue.
Yeah, like the Christ the Redeemer.
In like
Christ the Redeemer.
Yeah, Christ the Redeemer. That's
I keep
it.
saying
Yeah.
Christ the Dreamer.
Christ the Dreamer. Christ, that dreamer.
Completely Australian.
Okay. Okay, so next up, what sort of relationship does the average person have with this thing?
The average person that aren't doing the pilgrimages?
It's just the average person.
All right, let's go with the average person that's not a pilgrim. The average person sees it as an end to an era.
Okay.
Sorry, to an era that brought about a massive change.
Okay. Was the day you created it a particularly momentous occasion?
Yes, I would say. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say it was a momentous occasion because it was a reminder.
Yeah, sure. So what did you do to change the land in such a way?
Basically, the magical crystal that created a new industry, that was technology changing. I destroyed it.
Yep.
I destroyed it at
okay.
its source and killed it completely.
Right.
I've basically
Cool.
destroyed magic.
Okay. So this actually makes this next question kind of interesting, actually. Has nature embraced your monument or rejected it? So not people now.
Nature.
This is nature. So what was it? This crystal was magical in nature,
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
and created an industry.
Yeah, but then yes, it has.
So I suppose you're thinking is I always get these confused. Is it flora or fauna that's plants? I always forget. It's fauna, isn't it? Or is it flora?
I think it's
can't
flora. I
remember.
think flora is plants, and then fauna
Yeah.
is the other thing.
But has it started to kind of like encroach on it? I suppose, or intertwined with it, I guess.
Yes.
I imagine that's kind of what
I would
that
say
means.
I would say yes. Stuff has started growing round it, so like vines and that kind of stuff.
But not actively tearing it down or anything
I
like
want
that,
to believe
suppose.
in my mind that the magic was warping the land.
Okay.
So I've gone for a very much, yeah. I want to go with I've returned it back to its natural balance. Like less industrial. So
yeah.
nature's accepted
Okay.
it 100%.
So the next question is: when you look at this monument, whom or what do you think of?
Ooh. I don't know actually. I think of the darkness.
You think of the darkness. Wow, very emo.
The darkness I
Okay.
created.
Okay. Wow, so something bad
No,
has come of it.
no. Darkness in a literal sense, not in a as in I turned off all the electricity, didn't I? Basically, I've destroyed all the magic, which was powering
Okay.
lanterns, lights. So everyone's gone back to sort of a dark age. So I've literally created a darkness.
Okay, you've created a dark age.
Yeah.
Okay, what a hero.
To some, yes. That's why others fear.
Yeah. This is why people make pilgrimages
Yeah,
to
because
it. So, the last question about this monument is: what do you feel when you think about it?
This is deep, isn't it? I think.
It is, yeah.
I guess I. I guess I feel sad. I feel a sadness.
Okay. There's a melancholy there.
Yeah, like it wasn't something that I had to do it, but I wish there was another way.
Basically, you knew there were repercussions to
Yeah,
what you did. Negative repercussions, but it was necessary, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say this is very much on the vein of was it Fable 3 where you took over as king?
Yes.
But you knew that the bad guy was actually doing it for a reason, and then you find out the reason, you're like, oh god, do you know what I mean? So yeah,
sure.
I did it for a reason to stop the way it was going, kind of thing. But
yeah. Okay. So that's it. That's created a little bit
created
of
a really deep character
detail to your character. Yeah, it's given them a few more beats, I suppose, in their story that you can bring to your game. Then, honestly, there are loads more exercises to do in this book. I think that was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed hearing what you had to say with that. Ian couldn't join us tonight, and we were originally planning to do this with characters that you'd both brought along. I'm kind of glad we didn't, because we've been talking about this for a long, long time.
It's weird. It's almost like when we were planning characters for like RPGs, like different ones, that takes quite a lot of time. Like you need almost like a session just to actually make a character. I know this is a character technically in name, but we've fleshed him out so much more than anything I could have sort of just made on the fly. Do you know what I mean? It's a really good way of kind of, like you say, adding a little. I wouldn't even say adding a little bit. It's, through a few words, it's added an incredible. I've created a whole new world where basically magic was once prominent. It's been destroyed. I destroyed it, so I've got that burden on myself, kind of thing. There's a different language. Like it's all kind of interesting little things, isn't it?
So. We only did 4 exercises in that. There are 100 in this book.
To make one character? To make a character?
No, you're meant to be able to pick and choose which exercise you want to do. So you'll flick through and think, oh, I'd quite like to do that exercise with this character or something like that. So you can pick and choose them. I thought it would just be a bit of fun just to pick 4 exercises that I thought looked quite interesting and just put a character through it and just see just how much extra character we can actually build to what you've already made.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely changed the dynamic of the character, but I do like it.
Yeah, I mean, it almost felt a bit therapeutic, almost, just to go through that, almost, which is really, really cool. I really, really like it. But alas, we are currently, nearly an hour and 10 minutes into this podcast now, so I think we should move on to some news. But thumbs up to that book. By all means, check it out. It's called The Ultimate RPG Character Backstory Guide, available at all good bookstores. Okay, let's move on to some news.
news.
Okay, so the first bit of news that we have here is The Boys, which is, if you're a patron and get access to our newsletter, you'll know that The Boys is something that all three of us really enjoy. They're making a board game of it. It's currently on Kickstarter, and I believe it has already met its goal. I believe it's already way past it. So it had a £37,500 goal. It's currently sitting at 44,000. It's interesting to see that you get a massive bust of Homelander.
Yeah, it's very cool. Of the comic book.
I imagine that's a... Yeah, I imagine that is a Kickstarter exclusive.
I'm trying to figure out, actually, I think you get the Homelander figure anyway.
Regardless. That's ridiculous, because that is huge.
No, you don't.
Although it looks like it's the deluxe
it's
pledge,
the deluxe pledge,
I think. So $100 you have to pay for that, compared to the $60 bog standard version. The deluxe version, it comes with sculpted player miniatures as well. So if you want the minis, you're gonna have to get the deluxe version. Otherwise, you've got your cardboard standees. What is very cool about this is it kind of follows the story of you trying to hire heroes and basically trying to time it to the point where you think you're strong enough to take on the Homelander. So there's a bit of choosing, like when you're going to attempt to end this, I suppose. I don't know whether it says there's a timer that you're actually against as well, so you can either use all your time or just try to attack him early, or perhaps you just start having characters taken out. It looks like it's more of a cooperative game. But it actually describes it as a competitive 2 to 5 player game. So that is what has confused me a little bit about this. So just to read the spiel on the game, it says, The Boys, This Is Going to Hurt is a competitive 2 to 5 player game in which players take on the role of CIA agents with the biggest mission of their careers, taking down Homelander. To challenge Homelander, players will need to recruit an army of supes using blackmail, money, and brawn, with occasional Compound V use for an extra boost. There are over 80 unique characters, as well as an assortment of items from the comics to help. Once they feel strong enough to face Homelander, they have a chance to save the world and be the victor. But if no one can defeat Homelander in time, it's game over for all of us. So yes, you are playing against the timer. I feel like this should really be a cooperative game.
Given the fact that the Boys are a group of people that genuinely work as a team, it would make sense for you to work, even if it's like a 2-player version where it's like Mother's Milk and Wee Huey or whatever. You could sort of do that, couldn't you? Like, because they do kind of all, even in the series and so much in the films, they in the comics, sorry, they kind of branch out sometimes where they go and do some things on their own. Like one or two of them will go do one thing, and one of the two of them will do the other thing. So it would make sense, like you say, from our point of view anyway, to be like a cooperative game where you're not running against each other, you're working as a team. Because that's the only way, realistically, you would be able to. I mean, I know you're making a team of soups, but you would want to be able to be bringing in the rest of the team to sort of... It just
seems a little bit... It seems like it's working against the theme of the game by making it a competitive game. Because, for a start, it says you're all CIA agents, so you all work for the same organisation. So it is literally your motivation in this game basically being a glory hog.
Pretty much, yeah. I would imagine that's it, isn't it? It's whoever got whoever could.
Yeah, and I mean, it does still have the whole thing of if no one manages to take him down, everyone loses. So it kind of feels a bit more like this is it's semi-cooperative.
Yeah.
Like, how much are you willing to give to another player in order to ensure that Homelander gets taken down, compared to being the one that takes Homelander down, you know? I don't know. It still looks interesting because it's still the boys, and we all like the boys. But
yeah.
I immediately have a little bit of skepticism about this, just purely based on how well the theme of how you're playing the game fits the theme of the story behind it.
I think,
if that makes sense.
I think, honestly, I mean, it looks really nice. I don't know if I would be. You can add the pledge, so you can add extras onto it. So you can actually buy the bust even if you don't want the rest of the figures. But I would say, for me personally, this kind of goes on to like the same level as that like Shovel Knight game. Do you know what I mean? It was sort of, you don't know if the game was any good if it was trading off the licensing rather than anything else. However, I feel like it's a good time to bring out a boys game because they've got what was the one we talked about before? Oh, the Umbrella Academy have brought out a card game, haven't they? Like where you were sort of and I think that's due for release sometime like next year. But it's interesting that there's a lot more of these kind of original comic book sort of styles becoming into sort of a mainstream game. I like the look of it. I'm not going to lie, I'm really, really loving the look of the $180 deluxe edition with this, with the signed tip-in cover of by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. Yeah, it looks really nice. Like, I think that'd be really nice, but I suppose you could just buy that anyway. But yeah, I'm a sort of. I think as well, like I'm not massively keen on the cardboard stands. Like if it's an option, like I know, I still haven't played it.
You would basically rather spend the £40 extra. Oh, sorry, £20. No, £40 extra to get some plastic models.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I wouldn't want to spend that anyway on that game, to be fair. But
yeah,
I do. I appreciate
it. If you decided you wanted to buy this game, you would rather spend $100 on it compared to $60 for just the cardboard standees. I've got to say, actually, for a board game that is all cardboard, $60 seems a bit steep.
Yeah, I would say
simply because if you look at what Fantasy Flight did with Outer Rim, by trimming down on miniatures and stuff like that, they managed to get it all the way down to around £35 to £40.
That's generally regarded as quite an extremely good game.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people really enjoyed that game, and I have gone on record on this podcast saying that I really commend them for doing that, because I definitely think having a cheaper end Star Wars game available
made it more accessible.
helps bring people into the hobby. Yeah. If I'm perfectly honest with you, I think if every game is £70, then people will just be put off and not give it a try in the first place. So, but that seems very steep for a board game that doesn't have any kind of like deluxe aspects to it. So essentially, you have cardboard tokens. You still do have a lot of cards in this game. I will mention that. Just to give it a little bit here. And you do get 16 dice in the game. I still would say I think this seems a bit steep for a game with no deluxe components. On the other hand, that Homelander figure in the $100 version is huge.
To be fair, though, you can get that for $25. So, like, that's the only thing it's worth wondering whether or not it's worth just getting. Because I feel like that's the main thing, isn't it? Like, it's supposed to be the main thing. It's this guy that sits in the middle that you kind of know that you're not going to be able to ever beat. Well, you shouldn't be able to beat. But I think that's the problem. I think it's the picture itself, when you see it, it shows you it with him. And you see that immediately and go, that looks cool. It's this giant character in the middle.
So, just to bring this into perspective here, if you were going to buy the regular version and then buy both sets of figures anyway, you're essentially saving $10 if you decide to buy the deluxe edition instead, rather than buying it all separately.
Altogether, isn't it, I think?
It is, yeah. So yeah, this is just another one of those interesting conversations as to just where is board game going in terms of inflation of price, because I am honestly looking at the regular version of this, and I think it is a bit expensive for what you get. I think that's just my opinion. Shall we move on to the next story?
Yeah, go on.
Because I know you're quite into talking about this one, but Fantasy Flight are moving its miniatures lines over to Atomic Mass Games, so that includes things like X-Wing, Legion. I believe their Rune Wars stuff is moving over to Atomic Mass as well. But the article largely, I think the article largely focuses on Star Wars. Yeah.
Yes. So it's interesting because we've been hearing a lot about Fantasy Flight kind of changing its structure in a way. So like you've had it where they shut down the interactive side of gaming. So like what do they have? They had the Lord of the Rings card game, I think it was, which I think was one of the only ones they did. So there was that. They've been sort of shutting that down. Apparently they've been kind of like reducing how many staff members are working on the RPG area of things, which is a strange one because they do have some quite strong.
Sorry, just to jump in here real quickly, I will confirm here that it's just the 3 Star Wars games that have moved over to Atomic Mass Games, so their other miniatures games are still under the Fantasy Flight banner.
Yeah, that's really odd actually. Yeah, so again, it's kind of the thing where we've been hearing about them sort of like letting people go, shutting stuff down, kind of limiting what they're doing. It kind of comes at an interesting point where I would say the 3 big ones, Star Wars wise, well, the only 3 big ones, I suppose, they're all sort of stuff that's still kind of quite actively being pumped into. So like obviously Legion's still going quite strong with new stuff every kind of couple of months. Well, being revealed anyway.
So this is where I have a theory about this. I feel like in the last year, especially, there has been an absolute horde of miniatures come out for X-Wing, for Legion, for Armada. Like, it has increased, like I would say 4-fold compared to what it was last year. I think what they're doing is they're getting everything released, and now they're just going to steady the ship, pass it over to Atomic Mass. There aren't going to be very many more releases, I imagine, and they're just going to let them produce it and just manage the outsourcing of it from here on in. That's what I think might have happened here, because it has been a huge year for Legion and X-Wing, especially in terms of the amount of miniatures that have been released. And I think that will stop soon, or it will at least massively slow down. And literally, they've just got Atomic Mass now just to oversee the continuation of it, I imagine.
I'm curious.
As in,
because
it's all there, and they'll just keep rolling it out, basically.
Yeah, I am kind of curious, because they are kind of in the process of bringing out new stuff for Armada. They're bringing out, supposedly, the entire Clone Wars stuff, which isn't out yet. So I find it weird that they've kind of done it at a time where there's pretty much going to be a shift in. So obviously they did it with Star Wars Legion, where they moved a shift to the Clone Wars stuff, and with that it's kind of brought a few more players back into the fold. I know Ian's quite heavily interested in the Clone Wars, and so is Matt and a couple of people, Andy for one as well. So it's one of those things where, I mean, there's been a lot more releases.
I mean, Legion kind of went almost dead.
It dried
for a
up,
long
I would
time.
say.
Like, there wasn't a lot. And then all of a sudden, there's just been a massive push this year to get more Legion out and stuff like that. And this is what's making me think that they wanted to push a load of stuff out. Once Fantasy Flight have overseen the development of it, they then just pass on the production end of it to this other company then, who will just keep it all going now that everything's in place and people have a huge selection of things to buy. Because honestly, you would have to be spending an enormous amount of money to buy everything that was getting released at a time. I imagine there are some people that were, but it is a massive financial undertaking to buy it all, and that's why I think that what they've done is they've now left a catalogue out there for people to pick and choose from, and they're just going to let it all happen now, I imagine.
I don't know. I think it's an odd choice, if I'm honest. I feel like it's a very odd choice considering where it's going, how much is coming out, new stuff's coming out all the time. It's been announced and stuff like that. I do find it weird that, like you say, there was a bit of a lull with Star Wars Legion. I know certainly.
Yeah.
I found it pretty boring just with Rebels and stuff. And I think with the whole push of the Clone Wars, maybe the reinstating of the new series and stuff like that, I think that it was kind of they started bringing more abstract characters in. So like they brought in characters from the games and stuff like that. So like the Inferno Squad from Star Wars Battlefront. So it's a bit of an odd one because there's an option to obviously bring a lot of the old stuff back, which they did with X-Wing. X-Wing used a lot of ships that were from, say, the Legacy stuff. So books, games that don't really technically canon anymore. So it's an interesting thing with that, whereas it sort of remained for a while that Legion just stuck to just what was in films or books that were canon.
Yeah.
And I know with Imperial Assault had a lot of rich history to it that wasn't necessarily all to do with the films. So that was kind of nice. The thing I find interesting the most about this is the people that make another gaming system that's been getting quite a lot of attention at the moment is Atomic Mass Games. They happen to do Marvel Crisis Protocol. Now, I find it really interesting that they're doing super well with that, apparently. And yet, Fantasy Flight obviously own the card side of things, where they're running what's it called, Marvel Champions, and they're doing very well with that. Again, that's getting a lot of support. It's getting a lot of stuff coming out. There's new expansions all the time. I think there's a new one coming out either this year, end of, or next year, depending on the pandemic. But there's a lot for that. So I find it kind of interesting that initially Fantasy Flight didn't have the Crisis Protocol for themselves to make, because it would have been a nice thing to kind of, let's say, Star Wars is kind of done now, which it is. Star Wars is over now. There's no, other than The Mandalorian, there's a few books coming out, but there's nothing in the terms of sort of brand new film or anything that's kind of building up the hype. I know that the TV stuff's doing very, very, very well, but in terms of sort of sorry, I'll wrap this up in a second. But it kind of happened with the end of the original Star Wars, where Star Wars kind of ended, Return of the Jedi ended, and then it nearly died. And if it wasn't for the books that kind of, and the RPG that kind of brought it back to kind of life, if you will, there wasn't a lot going for it. So I wonder why they didn't decide or try to even bring in the Marvel aspect, because it's still Marvel's quite big still. Especially with all the different phases and stuff like that. And I always found it weird that they didn't get the miniatures game, because considering Fantasy Flight do a hell of a lot of miniatures games, I just wonder if they're maybe concentrating on shifting miniature games totally to another company, obviously, and because obviously Crisis Protocol, they handle the miniatures really well. They're quite decent models and stuff like that. I wonder if they're maybe just shifting their attention maybe to more card-based games, and you know, like Arkham does really well. Like Arkham Horror does really, really well. So I wonder if that's what they're restructuring in a way that they don't want to necessarily deal with miniatures anymore. Like you said, they brought out a game. They let you brought out a game, a Star Wars game that didn't have miniatures and did extremely well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so it's that kind of aspect. There's an X-Men game coming out, or it might be out, that again, no miniatures, but it looks really good. So I wonder if they've maybe learned it's better in a way to shift your attention away from plastic and go maybe more to just like card-based stuff.
Yeah.
Which, if it brings a better product, at the end of the day, the fans do get a better service. And like you say, if it's coming out cheaper as well, that's a nice positive thing to get more people into it. Maybe. That's what I think anyway.
I mean, we've talked before on this podcast before. I know Ian was a little more surprised to hear it, but I know we did something where we looked into what makes Fantasy Flight the most
it was
money.
Really odd, wasn't it?
And I think number one was Keyforge.
Yeah. It was like
really that is their biggest money maker at the moment, and it does make you think, if that is true from what I remember, it makes you think that if they have their own IPs, that, you know, the thing that's making them the most money is their own original IP compared to the licensed ones that does take a cut of the money they make. And to be honest, that's probably why. It's probably because they don't take as much of a percentage of the profits being made compared to something like Keyforge that they've developed themselves.
I mean, at the end of the day,
it makes me wonder whether they see more profit in games like Keyforge over the big miniatures-based games that, they have to pay basically royalties for making this product, for Disney, basically, who will take their share of it. I don't know. This is literally all speculation, really. But,
what do we know? I just find it very. I just find it very interesting. It's. It seems like they're dumbing down on a lot of stuff. And it just feels like they're shifting. I mean, they're a massive company, but maybe maybe it's sometimes change does come about and it is good, but you never know. Like I say, a lot of people have been speculating that once it goes over, they might start bringing out new versions. It might be a case of bringing out a Marder version 2.0 kind of thing, and it's going to start making that a bit awkward. I hope not. I hope it doesn't basically cost the fans that what they did with X-Wing, where you had to kind of buy into the new system in order to be able to use the old stuff. There was stuff around it, and it wasn't too bad for some people. But like, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's almost like the fans lose out. But I think I don't know. It might be positive. It might.
I don't see the fans necessarily losing out on this. I think the game is big enough to provide enough entertainment as it is at the moment.
Just a quick one. Is Cosmic Encounters theirs, or is that another license?
Cosmic Encounters is theirs. Yeah. Yeah, I love that game as well.
It just popped up when I was looking at their products, and it was just kind of like, there's a couple of things like Android,
Twilight Imperium, probably,
Twilight,
and stuff like that.
Terra North.
Android, I don't think is theirs. I think that's a separate IP. I think I could be wrong, but I know Netrunner flew under the Android banner for a time, or maybe it is, but Netrunner isn't, and they lost the license to it. I know the conclusion of Netrunner was essentially a licensing thing at the end of it, so maybe Android is theirs actually. But yeah, sorry.
That's right. I'm just also looking at how many. Jesus Christ, man! Keyforge is absolutely booming. There is. Remember, we got the Archon thing.
Yeah.
There's that, and then there's like the one after that, the Age of Extension. But there's actually like 2 more.
Worlds Collide, wasn't it? And was it Mutation?
There is
the
a
other
Mutation
one or something.
There's a Dark Tidings coming out. I mean, like, they are seriously smashing it.
I've got to admit, I'd like to pick up a newer Keyforge deck at some point, just maybe one or something like that, and just see what's gone on.
I would probably say that's the same thing. I wouldn't mind just. I think that's the kind of thing you can, can't you? I don't know if they're recycling the old decks or not, but you could just pick up a deck and go. Yeah, I mean, if anything, it was just nice artwork. I know it sounds really stupid, but there was some really nice artwork.
Oh god, yeah. Do you know what? After this podcast, I might just get my Keyforge stuff out and just flick through it a bit.
I've got a tin of it somewhere in a Yu-Gi-Oh tin. I might just crack it out and just have a look. Because there was a couple of ones I thumbed through them, but we didn't really get the chance to play with all of them. And maybe. Yeah, maybe.
There's almost like a science to finding out what a deck does. It feels like an experiment. It's really, I like that side of things. I do. But anyway, shall we move on to our last news story now? It's only a short one. Won't be talking about this very much.
6 hours later.
Renegade Studios have basically announced that their RPG, Kids on Bikes, is getting a board game, which is quite interesting. It always looked similar to me for Tales from the Loop, which I'm a bit more invested in on Kids on Bikes. But Kids on Bikes is still a wildly popular RPG, and this board game is called the Snallygaster Situation. It's literally just been announced. It looks like they're taking pre-orders in early 2021. We're basically reading this off tabletopgamingnews.com, so by all means head over there and check out the article for yourselves. But it literally just says, what's a Snallygaster? Well, we're glad you asked. The Snallygaster is one of the monsters that are terrorising your hometown in this 2 to 5 player cooperative board game set in the Kids on Bikes world. Hop on your bikes and embark upon a dangerous yet epic adventure to find your missing friend and maybe even save the world. So it's kind of like it's one of these games where there is a mystery and there's monsters to defeat. Basically, you're working together to solve these conundrums. There's not a lot else I can really say about it at the moment. So like I said, this is just a real quick kind of announcement, I suppose, that this thing is on the way. It's always interesting to see when RPGs decide to branch out. I mean, D&D have been doing it like in all kinds of ways recently. There's been all kinds of board games and short little party games they've been releasing and stuff like that, which is neat, and it's nice to see other RPGs doing the same thing, really. We do not have an audience question this week. Probably for the better. But if I'm perfectly honest with the amount of time that we've got on this week, it's probably for the better. But by all means, if you do want to send us an audience question, we will answer it on the next podcast. The email address has changed, as I mentioned earlier, so it's now everybodydiceshow@gmail.com. Please do send your emails there. And yeah, we'd be happy to answer anything, not just board game related stuff. Okay.
I think me and Steve are going to go play some Keyforge.
We've got a big topic to come before that.
I was about to sneak off.
Let's do this. Okay, so big topic this week is which board games have sentimental value to you and why. This topic was chosen by our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/everybodydice, where every podcast we give them 3 options of topics to cover. This time round, the topics were: how has the pandemic affected your board gaming? Which I actually think would have been a kind of interesting question, because I feel like it kind of goes beyond, well, I've played less. But, you know, you also had, how large is your board game shelf of shame and what's on it? If you're not aware of what a board game shelf of shame is, it is that shelf on your board game collection of the games you've never played. Spoiler, mine is really large.
I was going to say, I think mine is just, it's not as, it's not as, oh, that sounds weird. It's not as big as yours, Steve, but it's definitely quite large.
But yeah, what has been chosen, so we will be answering today, is which board games have sentimental value to you and why. Like I say, they get these options every single month. It costs us as little as $1 to go over there and help support us and get to help shape our content. It's not just the podcast questions you get to choose from. We also get you guys to choose which board game we do our monthly board game review on as well. You also get access to our newsletter too, where we talk about all kinds of stuff. If you want to know what kind of like video games, books, music and stuff like that we all
books we don't
take
read.
Part in. I've actually mentioned
I
quite
know,
a
I was
few
going to say,
books
I've read a few books as well.
But you know, the newsletter is the way to do it. Like I say, as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/everybodydice. That is the shilling out the way. Let's get to the topic itself. So, I kind of think there are a lot of board games that have sentimental value to me because they're a really good time and they're generally good games. So I would bring up games like Bang, where there are countless stories of amazing games that we've played. But I don't really just want to focus on them. I certainly have a couple of games that are either outdated now because another board game's come out that's replaced it, or it's just actually not that good, but I have good memories of playing them. I'll get around to them in a bit. Do you have anything in particular you can think of right now? Because I have several that I could talk about.
I mean, there's a couple that I like, and I like them because of like various reasons. But I wouldn't necessarily. No, go on. I'll let you speak, and I'll think about it because there's probably only one or two for me, really.
Okay, so the first thing is I've been running a board game group for over 5 years now. It genuinely is the thing that I I kind of started it because it helps me more than anything else. It gives me kind of like a social outlet, I suppose. It's a good thing for getting people around. Like I said, I consider board game a very, very sociable hobby. And after the first year of me running the board game group, the guys actually all got together and bought a ton of board games that they kind of wrapped up and gifted to me. And they're always going to be in my board game collection. I'm never going to get rid of them. So off the top of my head, Space Alert was in there. Roll for the Galaxy was in there. The Exploding Kittens games were in there. The Not Safe for Work edition of Codenames was in there. Yeah, it was an awful lot of stuff, and it was something I really wasn't expecting. I mean, I was putting on like a 1 year spectacular kind of thing of, hey, let's all try and get round and we'll do a big night of games that we can all play together and stuff like that. And it was a real nice surprise. Ticket to Ride was in there actually as well. So yeah, those games have sentimental value to me, and so I will never get rid of them. A lot of the other games, it's all because of moments within them. Like, for example, with Bang, we've just had so many games where it feels like someone's done something horribly wrong, or everyone's picked on one person, and it's one of those games that just really creates moments, and that's why that holds a lot of sentimental value to me. The one which I remember you were at, Darryl, where one of our friends, Ben, was playing it for the very first time, and
that's funny.
When you play that game for the first time, you don't really want to have the renegade role, because it's probably the most complex one, because you have to whittle down the table so that it's only you and the sheriff left, and then you take out the sheriff at the end and you win the game, kind of thing. And he got it on his first ever game. And he played dumb, and I don't know whether that was him genuinely playing dumb, like, I don't really understand how to play this game, or whether he played dumb to just manipulate everyone around the table. And he played a masterful game. Didn't win, because the odds were stacked against him, but played it so well over the course of the game. He did get a little help from someone else that was with him, but in terms of the poker face element to it, he just nailed it, and that's one game that will always stick with me.
To be fair, actually, I've got one to do with that. Sorry, it was the one where me and you, I think, were first playing it, or might have been playing it and it was just me and you with dynamite. Do you remember that? And it was just so tense because we didn't know who was gonna set off the dynamite, and we're just constantly back and forth, and it just kept going and going, and we were just there like, okay, you now, and it's like, oh god, the dynamite's not gone off, and we're just constantly just doing it back and forth. That was a good moment for that, actually.
Yeah,
really good moment.
Another game that I feel creates a bunch of moments just because it has a real charades like element to it is a game called Concept as well. It's a game where you have this board and it has lots of little pictures on it, and you've got a number of tokens that you put on the little pictures to first of all set a theme for what it is. Like, is it a movie or something like that? And you put one token on that, and then the other tokens you use that same colour kind of like will depict what sort of film it is, and then you might use a different colour token to start saying elements that happen within that film, and you just build this picture, and it's always a good time. And I remember having a huge game of it again with my board game group. I think again it was on the 1 year anniversary of starting to doing the board game nights and stuff like that. That was very, very cool. It was just a really nice game. So again, it's another game that I'm never going to sell. I know you haven't played it, Darryl, or you might have played it with someone else, but I know you haven't played it with the board game group. I really want to bring that out sometime and give that a go. If I want to pick a game that I think is bad, but I've kept it in my collection because I have particularly fond memories of it, it's actually last Friday.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Hidden Movement game, where you basically one person plays as a Jason Voorhees style monster, and everyone else is running away, and you're basically trying to pick people off one by one. And we had too many people to be able to play it, yet we really, as a group, wanted to play it. So me and Mike, who is one of our patrons, we decided to play the killer together. But because it's a hidden movement game, where really it's one of these things where you sit and you plot and you write down what you're going to do and you keep it hidden from everyone else. Because people on the map, they don't know where you are. You don't have a player piece that's on the board. You write down a location that you're currently at. That's kind of like the way that hidden movement games work. So me and Mike had to leave the table every single time it came round to our turn and had to discuss things in another room in order to keep it secret, basically. And that whole dynamic of us getting up and leaving and talking amongst ourselves about what we're going to do next and stuff like that, I have really, really good memories of that. And again, it's another game that I just don't think I could lose from my collection, despite the fact that I do see it as a really inferior game when you compare it to a lot of other hidden movement games. But yeah, that has sentimental value to me as well. Did you have one at all? I've probably got one more, and I'll save it for the end, I think.
Personally, one of my favourite memories. I don't even own this game; it's yours. But it's God's sake, man. At the thing Avalon. Oh, I've literally forgot his name.
Tournament at Avalon.
No.
Oh no! You didn't play that.
Oh my god, is it Avalon or is it not Avalon? It's not Coup.
I'm not sure.
Resistance. Yeah.
I've got so many memories.
So I think my favourite thing of that, and I think it's one of the very first early games I played with your group, that I didn't fully understand the rules, and we ended up winning because I was meant to reveal myself as a traitor or a bad guy. And I didn't realise that the concept was I had to actually reveal who I was, so I didn't put my thumb up, and I
remember.
I went in blind hard, and then I wasn't until later on I realised I was on the red team, and someone else didn't really get it if I was or not, and somehow we managed to, as the bad guys, we won, and it was just one of those games where we were like, how did you do that? And then afterwards you were like, well, technically that's not. That isn't breaking it. You can actually play like that, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so good!" Like, we managed to win it purely based on the fact that I didn't even know what I was doing. The bluff was so
in that
real.
In that game, me and the other person that were also spies during that game, we knew one another was a spy, and we knew someone else on the table was a spy, but they didn't reveal themselves during the reveal phase. So we both got outed very, very early in the game, simply because I think we'd both failed missions, and we both had to do it. There was no way we could really be sly about it because we didn't know who the other person was on the table that was on our team, and it created this whole dynamic where we thought we'd lost the game because we just thought someone didn't understand the game, they didn't realise they were trying to fail the mission, and that they were... But yet you realised by the last round that you had to fail the mission.
I think it was very early on. I forgot I was on the bad side, and it wasn't like... And when you're just like, I was like, was I... And you couldn't look after that, and I felt like if I looked, it would give me away. And then I realised, I was like, oh shit, red is bad. Red is bad. And then, midway through, they were like, "Oh, well, either he's gonna fail this, and they've won." And I failed it, and I was like, "We won." And it was just like, "Who was Was it you?" And I was like, "Yeah." Everyone's like, "What the fuck?"
Oh man, but yeah, I think I agree with you. Resistance is another game that I have a whole lot of sentiment for. Again, a game that I probably have got hidden role games that are better than it. But it's just created so many memories by this point that there's no way I could ever leave it from my collection. And I'll keep bringing it out as well. Whenever I have a new person that's new to the group, I still think it's probably the best game to introduce people to hidden role games and stuff.
I would definitely say so. I think it's definitely a game that like you say, it's a little bit. I would say it's a lot simpler than playing one like Werewolf, because you don't need to necessarily know all of the werewolves, and like some of them have
Yeah,
like
sure.
all the different skills and stuff like that. So I feel like it's a great way to bring you into those kind of games.
I mean, saying that, One Night Werewolf is another game that holds significant sentimental value to me as well, because much like Bang as well, it's another game that creates moments, and those are always going to hold sentimental value to me. The last game that I wanted to mention is Codenames,
Oh yes.
because the thing is Codenames is so outdated now, and I know there's a lot of people that will be angry for me saying that, but I feel like I would rather play Decrypto before Codenames. I would rather play Trap Words before Codenames. I would rather play Letter Jam before Codenames. But Codenames was kind of the word game that kind of started it all, kind of thing. All these word association games that have become huge now, I think, owe a great debt to Codenames. And again, it's another game that's created a whole lot of moments for me, such as the time when we literally just explained the rule that you could only give one word to associate the number of cards you want to look at on the table. And one of the cards on the table was the word England, and literally seconds after it had been said, he went, Roy Hodgson. It's kind of, that's two words. We have to disqualify that. I loved another game we had where the word they gave was drop, and it became evidently clear that almost every word that was on that table you could associate with the word drop, making the clue absolutely useless. I loved that. It's like I say, there are certain games which do create moments, and if I'm honest, there are plenty that we played at the first UK Game Expo that we went to as well that I would also put into that category, like Team 3 and Big Trouble in Little China has sentimental value as well because of the film, and I love the film, but also we played it at the UK Game Expo. All those games that we really enjoyed playing there, Dwarven Beer Fest and Sumo Gnomes, all games like that as well.
I think definitely, like, and also Team 3. Team 3 has a special place everywhere in my heart for just so many arguments and fun and ridiculousness. Because I mean, playing it from playing it at the Board Games Festival, UK Games Expo, to then actually playing it after we finally got some copies again in real world with us and some other people like Helen and stuff. It was just really fun to kind of try and find who was best at what. I think that's good.
That's a fun process to go through, like finding out who are the best in what roles.
I would honestly say I love that kind of game. I think another little quick mention is I absolutely adore Letter Jam. Again, I don't want to say the game is very good. The game is exceptionally good, but I think it's the fact it creates so much tears. Like, I think my favourite game ever was the one with me, you, and Andy, where it was clearly obvious what words we were trying to make, but I messed it up so bad, and we're just crying with laughter, and it's just those kind of moments where it like creates like such a fond memory, doesn't it? Where it brings you back. I mean, we only played it maybe 3 or 4 times since then, but again, it's just a silly little game, but it's strong. It's very strong.
Yeah, but anyway, I feel like we really should wrap this up now because we're approaching 2 hours.
It's not
on
even
this
a
podcast.
Special event.
Do you know what? It's not, but I feel like I've had a lot of fun on this podcast because I enjoyed going through that RPG book. So it's been worth it. Hopefully it has been for you guys too. So if you would like to follow us at social medias, you can do at Everybody Dice on Twitter and at Everybody Dice Show on Instagram. We also have a Facebook page you can find at facebook.com/Everybody Dice. We have that new email address, so please, if you have any questions you would like to direct at us, please send them to everybodydiceshow@gmail.com. And finally, if you really enjoyed our show and want to help support us financially, you can do at patreon.com/everybodydice for as little as $1 a month. And we give you a load of stuff for that too. A load of digital content. And you help shape our output, basically. thank you very much for joining us. There should be some stuff on screen somewhere around here. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and check out some of these videos if you get time and want to check out more of our stuff. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Darryl, bye.
Bye.
Bye.